Hello, hello. Welcome, guys. Happy Monday. For those of you actually tuning in, hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Today we are going to be illustrating caricatures and talking about the art of caricature, one of my favorite things to do. As somebody who loves drawing people, I also think that learning how to exaggerate and how to exaggerate faces will actually let you avoid same face syndrome, explore ways that you can exaggerate and stylize, and just have so much fun, all in good fun. Hey, Vin. Yeah, my day's going exceptionally well. How is your day going? I had my coffee, I had my lunch, everything is great. I'm so happy to be here. Good morning, Blue Nova Art. Hi, Castle. And oh, you finally made it to one of these streams. Sleepy Coffee, welcome. Welcome in. All right, cool. So, for those of you who didn't know, our mission at Wing Canvas is to make art and art education easily accessible to everyone. So join us at Wing Canvas for free live streamed lessons, as well as free, we've got so much free stuff. You just have to join our Discord. But free resources and live stream lessons on YouTube every week to level up your art skills with our community of art nerds. We're also more than just a YouTube channel. We are an online school of illustration dedicated to helping artists master visual storytelling and turn their passion into income. So a huge shout out to our amazing students and members for supporting our mission. We love seeing your incredible artwork and watching you grow in our weekly classes and critiques. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper, join the Discord. Got about like 8,000 people, 8,000 art nerds on there connecting, sharing stuff, keeping each other accountable. It's so awesome to see. So if you haven't joined the Discord yet, it's free. It's where you can get our stream notes and demos, as well as exclusive artwork, challenges, and more free resources to help you improve. So come connect with your fellow art nerds and get inspired. All right. Cool. So we're going to get started. I just wanted to kick off this stream by showing you some caricatures of Bill Murray. Classic comedian. We all love Bill Murray. And I just wanted to show you all of the different styles that you could really get inspired by. Now, one thing I want to make really clear is that the art of caricature is not meant to be necessarily political commentary. It's not meant to make fun of people. It's not meant to bully anybody. It's really just meant to have some fun, and I'm sure Bill Murray loves these. And I have other examples here. So you can go, just concentrate on the face. Usually when we make the head really, really big, right? It gives it that little bit of humor, right? So big heads, little bodies is very, very common in caricature. Caro Pico, welcome in. They look inaccurately accurate. Exactly. It's like playing up some of the features that we know the person for to make them really, really iconic, right? Bill Murray's caricatures are so good. And this one is so good. Just having that I think it's choosing expressions as well, right? And really stylizing the face. This one is actually a real sculpture. I don't know if it's made of wax or what it's made of, but it's really funny. So caricature can be sculpture as well. It could be cartoons. It could be painting. So I'm going to show you a lot of different examples, including my own. That makes me love this art form so much. Okay, so this one's really good. Normally when we draw older people, right, we tend to put the eyes a little bit higher, but in this case this artist really exaggerated the forehead and the hair, so he kind of squished the face to the bottom, and it gives him this kind of childlike, youthful look, which I think is really, really fun. And look at all the beautiful colors that they put in. Sometimes caricature can exist outside of super exaggeration of the face. For example, this illustration shows a sort of surreal-like story with Bill Murray, right? I'm not sure what it's referencing exactly, but it just gives that level of intrigue without really making his face too grotesque looking, right? So personally, I really like this form of caricature. I like it because it tells a better story, and it allows the artist to hide things in there, symbols and other things that can make it very visually interesting. And then you got the classic sort of caricature style, which is more cartoony, right? This one has more rendering in it. But you can see for a lot of these, it really depends on the facial expression, right? So if you could choose a good facial expression for the person, then it makes it a lot easier. Okay, so let's look at some other examples just so that we can be inspired. Now, these are some caricatures that people drew of me. And I wish I had more. I think Josh actually drew a caricature of me and my family at a birthday party, and as well, and it was really, really fun. But these are some that this one on the left, one of the first wing canvas teachers, her name is Josephine. She was great at caricature, and she used to be a caricature artist at a theme park. And so I learned a lot of caricature from her, and she drew this of me and my dad. And this is actually hanging in our hallway because I love it so much. She's awesome at exploring mixed media. So she uses marker and colored pencil and pastel and crayon and watercolor. And you can see sometimes you can be really playful. Like caricature allows you to be very playful and very fast. Yeah, super, super cute. This is another one. Obviously, the face is not as flattering, but I wasn't offended. I thought it was very funny. And this caricature artist I met at a bar, and, every time I see an artist draw, I kind of stand there and just like appreciate it, right? So he saw me drawing and he's like, "Hey, what's up? Do you want a caricature?" I said, "You know what? I'm also an artist, but I'm just going to draw a portrait of you while you draw me." So here's my portrait. It's not a caricature, but I drew him in my sketchbook drawing me, and this was him drawing me drawing him. And I thought, oh, that was really cute. So you can see, you gotta have, try not to get offended when you commission a caricature, because really you're allowing the artist to have some fun, right? Have some fun at your features. Like, I'm not gonna go to him and say, "Oh my gosh, you made my eyes so small." Well, like, yeah, they are small, right? So you gotta go into this with the spirit of fun. So let me show you some caricatures that I drew. So I started drawing caricatures simply because I love drawing portraits. And then my first experience with caricature is I actually went to a fair, like a jazz festival fair, and I started drawing people for free. So I put a sign there and it was like, "Pay what you want, 5-minute caricatures." And so this is an example. This is actually my aunt. But this was an example of the style that I was working with, slightly exaggerated, but also meant to be not too more of preserving the likeness and a little bit of flattery. Some people want nicer portraits, so you can see I was experimenting with some style. This is a caricature of my husband. And this is a caricature of Josephine, the artist who drew me here. So I've also drawn her. Really, really fun. And then these caricatures I did at a birthday party. So when Wing Canvas was an actual studio, we had birthday parties with lots of kids, and I would entertain them by drawing caricatures of these kids. And sometimes they would make a silly face, right? Because they want a silly caricature. And other times they just want a nice, pretty drawing. So here's an example of some party caricatures that I did. And these are all like 5 to 10 minutes. All right. So yeah, I am known for making people look like them. And also, you know, I work on a scale of flattery. So let me show you some unflattering caricatures, okay, that I've done, including one of myself. So in the year 2020, I decided to do a challenge where I drew the same thing every day. And what was that thing? It was going to be a potato. So I wanted to draw a potato every single day. Why? Don't ask me why. I just chose something and went with it. And so you can see that the first drawing I did that year was myself as a potato. Just because I think, you know, when I do something silly, I'm like, oh, that was a potato move, right? And so I drew myself here with all of the things that I wanted to be good at and sort of failed at, except maybe painting. So this was myself. I took ballet classes when I was really young, and my mom thought, you know, I would be one of those dainty ballerinas, but my ballet teacher basically told my parents that I was heavy-footed and that I should probably go study something else. So, you know, at first it was a little disappointing, but I am so glad that I did not end up as a ballerina. And so this was just kind of like a funny little drawing that I did. And then I started drawing other people as caricatures, and you might recognize some of these faces here. I love drawing politicians. So this was Trudeau and Trump as potatoes. And funny thing, Trudeau, who was the Prime Minister of Canada during the pandemic, his name in Chinese sounds like Tudou, which is potato. And so this is how I got the idea. And a lot of people in the Chinese community call him Little Potato and Big Potato because his father was also a prime minister. So Da Tudou, Xiao Tudou, little potatoes. I thought that was really funny. Yeah, and then so sometimes I just like to draw different shapes and practice drawing weird faces on them. You know, sometimes it's good to get ugly. You know, guys, like you gotta get ugly and gotta get like really silly sometimes just for fun. Okay, just for fun. So, all right, so I showed you my potatoes. Let me show you some really fun caricatures. If you want a really good laugh, and if you're ever in Hawaii, in Maui specifically, there's this artist named Ninja Sketch. And oh my goodness, these caricatures are hilarious. They're so funny. And obviously, you know, you're probably thinking, how do I exaggerate somebody like her who is actually a very pretty lady? Like, how would you even, you know? And so this artist is so good at exaggerating just to be as silly as possible. I love the way she draws teeth. I love the shapes and just like the backgrounds that she makes. It's just absolutely silly. You know, like this lady's nose is so sharp that she's making this lady bleed. And I'm like looking at her teeth and thinking like her teeth aren't that big, right? But like what features can you play with? And, you know, how can you really exaggerate and find humor in everybody that you draw? I know these are so good. There's some shorts for these. They're really, really fun. Okay, so this I really like. Could I do this? Probably not very easily, but I just love this. And if I'm ever in Hawaii, I'm going to seek out this artist. All right. Lastly, I'm going to show you some of my paintings, and then we're going to get into the lesson. Oh, no, and then I have some submissions that I want to show you guys. But these are some of my caricature commissions that I've done. Because I'm a portrait artist, I do get commissioned to do caricatures as well. So I'll tell you a short story. This Elvis was the first, it was a school project, actually. We had to do a caricature of an artist. So I chose Elvis. This was an oil painting. And I had a lot of fun with it. And then 10 years later, maybe it was even more than that. It might have been 13 years later. Somebody saw this Elvis. I don't know where they saw it, on my website or on in Instagram or something like that. They saw it, and it was an ice cream shop based in the US. And they called me and said, "Hey, I really like your Elvis portrait. We're opening up an ice cream shop that's Elvis themed. Would you be able to redraw it just in black and white? And can you replace the microphone with an ice cream cone? And we'll pay you for it." I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So yeah, so that's what happened. There's me with the final piece. So you never know, you know, stuff that you share and tag properly can get discovered and lead to a commission. So yeah. And then this piece was actually commissioned by a friend of the family. And if you don't know who these people are, this is Xi Jinping. He is the president of China, and his wife, who's also a entertainer and celebrity. And you know, China's very, very, very sensitive about politicians and like making fun of them. And I thought that this was like the least offensive thing that I could possibly paint. I mean, I chose them smiling. They're like, you know, there's fireworks in the background, and these big buns is because Xi Jinping is known to really like these buns. So he kind of made these buns famous. They're like a specific type of bun. But anyway, apparently some people saw this, like some political people saw this, and they were like, "Oh, you should never show this in China because it could get you canceled." And I was like, come on, guys, everybody is subject to be like, you know, lightly made fun of in the art of caricature. Okay, nobody's off the hook. Doesn't matter how honorable you are, doesn't matter how pretty you are, doesn't matter how rich or poor you are. Okay. We are all subject to the art of caricature. It's just a good fun. Yeah, these are bao buns. Exactly. All right. So I've showed you some of my work. Now let's look at some artwork that was submitted by our wonderful community. So this month's challenge is 30-minute concepts. So it's just a quick way for you to set the timer and conceptualize something in 30 minutes, whether you end up finishing it or not. Really good exercise. That timer helps so much in terms of productivity. So definitely invite you to try that out. And let's look at our submissions for this month. We've got Cozy. So Cozy, I really like, you know, what you were able to get done in 30 minutes. I love how you drew a very, very detailed drawing of the face, but left it pretty blank in the full body drawing. I really like how you have a, you know, to scale drawing. This is really, really helpful, just so people can kind of see the scale of your creature based on a human. So really, really good work here. Love this character. Can't wait to see you work more on it. So congrats, Cozy. And next person is Squares. Squares, I really think this character is super cute. I love how you're experimenting with expressions, and I like how you put most of the details in the eyes. The eyes look like they're sparkling, even though it's a very quick drawing. So nicely done. And last but not least, Zipporah. Zipporah, this is a mermaid character of yours. Also saw your speed paint. Guys, these incredible artists have posted their speed paint process on the server just to like show us their process and prove that they did it in 30 minutes. I didn't actually post the recordings because I just wanted to show you the final product. But if you want to hop onto our Discord, you can also submit your artwork for the monthly challenge for a chance to be featured on stream. All right, good stuff, guys. Okay, so just catching up with the chat here. Kiro Pico says, I would have never think of making someone's teeth to be super big or extend their forehead. That's why I think caricatures are amazing. I am so glad that you think so. I'm just going to bring up what you were talking about so that people can see. Yeah, anything can be exaggerated, right? So if we take a close look at some of these people, now I'm not going to exaggerate this much, but it's just good to see the scope of exaggeration, right? And so I think that when you're drawing people, right, you can kind of, especially when you're drawing like 3 people together, you can kind of look at what are some things about their face that I can exaggerate, right? If I compare these 3 people, I can see that this lady here has darker eyebrows, right? So look, her eyebrows are accentuated. You kind of want to think of like the average generic face and how to stray away from the generic, right? So this lady, I don't know why they made her eyes pop out like that, but I like how they exaggerated her pointy nose and her really, really big smile. Even though it's only like maybe a few millimeters wider than the others. But you know, these are some things that you can definitely look for when you are doing your illustration. Also, if their eyes point down or if their eyes point up, right? So here you can see this artist had made all of their eyes point down. You can exaggerate eyelashes here. You can exaggerate whiskers, right? Any features that are not average are the ones that you can exaggerate and just have a lot of fun with. Okay, so we are going to be drawing the world's most famous TikToker. I only discovered I only really discovered Khaby Lame recently, like really, really recently. I read about him in an article. I read his success story. And if you guys don't know him, this guy is completely silent in his TikTok videos. He's like on the level of like Mr. Bean, but modern time, except he's more of an intelligent character, right? So his whole thing is like social commentary. He posts videos of these like ridiculous how-to hacks that are just like so inefficient, and he just makes fun of them. So yeah, he's hilarious in silence. He's an international star. Actually, if you don't know his story, it's really, really inspiring. He immigrated from Senegal, from Africa, to Italy. And in Italy, he did odd jobs like factory work. And then he was like barely making it, right? His family was like really struggling. And then during the pandemic, he lost both of his jobs. So then he started making TikTok videos and they just blew up. And now he is the single most followed TikToker on earth with 160 million followers. That's insane. Insanity. So it just goes to show you the American dream is real, guys. If you love making TikTok videos and you're funny, you know, you could go from you know, someone who nobody knew to an international star. And now I think he's a millionaire, multimillionaire. All right. So let's try to sketch in 30 minutes. Okay. We're going to do a 30-minute sketch where we figure out what are the different ways that we can exaggerate, and how are I guess what is the best approach. Just see, I'm using KRITA, by the way, and I haven't used it in a while. And I've been testing out some of Josh's brush recommendations from our latest video. So I'm gonna try this pencil brush that he recommended. Okay. So the first step that you want to do is you want to collect references. Okay. Now, I very rarely just choose one reference. References, because you have just like a wider selection. And especially if you don't know somebody, like if you've never met them, it's good to get a variety of references so that you can actually have a better idea of their face, because, you could have different lighting, you could have different angles. So different lighting, angles, poses. You want to find stuff that's like funny, right? You want to find stuff that's funny and iconic. And actually, I posted a poll a couple days ago, and it was, it actually got a lot of drama. There was like so much drama in the comments, because apparently I chose some people that were not very popular. But let me show you guys the poll. So, so these were the most searched for celebrities. Here we go. These were the 4 most Googled celebrities that of Gen Z, who make up most of our audience. And I didn't realize that most Googled also means most drama. Didn't know that. But anyway, this is what you voted for. And the selection of images here are basically like, I tried to find images that are very iconic. I almost chose the one of 11 here where she's bald, right? Where she has a shaved head. But, decided to find one that was a little bit more neutral. And actually the best references are the ones that are funny, right? The ones that you can exaggerate the most are the ones that are really funny, or maybe seen a lot on movie posters, so it's very iconic so that people recognize them, right? So if you can find something that's iconic, then you would probably have more luck in them being more recognized, right? More recognizable. So that's kind of what you want to focus on when you collect references, right? And then once you collect your references, then you can start thinking about symbolism. If you want, right? Symbolism is optional, but if you're thinking about a background, for background, and sort of like storytelling, right? So symbolism for Khaby Lame is probably his hands, right? Like when I see his hands here, right? That's like his iconic move, his duh face, right? So like this one here is probably more funny than this one here, even though it's the same pose, right? Why? Because his eyes say everything, right? Like you can look at 1, 2, 3, right? In 4 images, he's got his iconic, really wide eye, like this type of expression, right? Where you see all the white around his eye. And so like 3 out of 4 have that, and 2 out of 4 have his iconic hand gesture, right? So in this case, it's going to be eyes, hand, pose. So if you could only portray one pose, you know, which one would it be? Which one is the most iconic? Okay, so once you collect your references and you have a little bit of an idea for symbolism, then you can kind of get started on your pose or on your sketch. And if you don't have the luxury, like let's say you're just sitting there and you get a new customer, they walk in, you don't know them at all, and all you have is them sitting in front of you, right? Then you can ask them a question. So 3, if you're doing it live, right, and you don't know them, talk to them, right? Talk to them, get to know them, right? Make them laugh. And then you want to also ask them, you know, ask them like, do you want this to be funny? Do you want this to be flattering? Or do you want it to be over the top, right? Like, how exaggerated do you want this? And typically caricature artists kind of have some examples, right? But even though there are examples, right? Like I'll show you my examples again. Like I can get silly, right, and stylized over here, or these are just kind of fast sketches that are, you know, more focused on likeness. So you can kind of ask them like, what style would you like, and how much time, you know, do you have? Because sometimes when you really don't have a lot of time, right, you're limited. How exaggerated? How long can they sit there? How much time? And if they don't want to sit there for 10 minutes and you don't think that you can do something presentable in 10 minutes, then you can take a photo, right? You can take photo with permission, and then they can come back, right? So for example, when I was drawing those kids at a birthday party, they didn't want to sit for 10 minutes. They can't even sit for 30 seconds. They just wanted to run around, right? Just run around and do other things. So I ended up taking pictures with their permission. Okay, so it really depends on the person. So over here you have realistic, right? And then over here you have cartoony. And then instead of cartoony, I'm gonna like put in like over the top. Okay, so if you think of Sketch Ninja or Ninja Sketch, right? They are over the top, whereas I'm more on the realistic scale, right? And then, so this is the scale of exaggeration. How exaggerated do you actually want to make this piece? You kind of want to think to yourself, okay, how much do I want to exaggerate, right? I kind of, if it's so over the top, I don't know if you can even recognize them, right? But if it's also too realistic, it probably isn't as, I guess, as fun, right? But also over here between realistic and over the top, you might have like a better likeness, right? You might have a better likeness between here and here, right? Whereas with like the over the top, it can get a little bit unclear. So the likeness starts to fade a little bit, especially if you're drawing somebody who is a little, who's like super pretty, like Millie Bobby Brown, for example, right? It's hard to really exaggerate somebody who is very beautiful or very symmetrical or very pretty. Whereas with like, you know, Khaby, right? It's very easy to exaggerate him because he exaggerates his own face. So like he's already exaggerating his expressions. So definitely makes it easier. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions. But let's get started. So I'm probably going to use the first one as the guideline. And then also, like, how fast do you, like, how much time do you have for this, right? Is it going to be a 5-minute drawing, or is it going to be a 1-hour drawing? So we have about an hour, maybe an hour 15, if I don't talk as much. So let's see, I'm gonna create a new layer here for my sketch. Yeah, and let me know if you have any questions. But this is really how I get started. So since I can't talk to Khaby, I just binged his TikTok videos last night to get a better sense of him. Okay. So I think with caricature, right? Usually the head is really big and the other parts of him are smaller. So if I wanted to go with number 1, for example, you kind of want to think about what head shape does this person have, right? Because people have heads that are shaped differently. So your most kind of basic generic head is kind of like your ball and shield, like this, right? And he kind of does fit that. But if you look at number 1, right, you'll sort of see that his face is more of a circle and a triangle, like pretty sharp at the bottom. Some people have very square heads, right? Some people have square heads and kind of like round bottoms. Some people even have like just a whole triangular head shape. So head shape is how you want to start because it's the fastest way to get a good likeness, right? So with Khaby, I'm going to kind of like draw in, I'm going to tilt his head to kind of exaggerate it even more. Give him like really small ears. And then I'm just going to try to get this pose down first. So here he's got his shoulders, right? His shoulders are here. And then his hands. So I chose to tilt his head like this to just get a little bit more drama, like a little bit more action. But again, this is just a sketch, so might change it after. And if you do work digitally, you have the luxury of you know, playing with scale, making things larger or smaller as you wish. So for his hands, I don't actually know if they're going to be this big. We'll see. I'm trying to figure out, like, should I make his head bigger than his hands, or should I really make his hands bigger because it's a little bit more recognizable from his videos, right? His hands are closer to the camera in most cases. So figuring out the pose and figuring out the head shape is really important. I know a lot of people, when they draw caricatures, the first thing they do is draw the face, and like that's sometimes all you have time for. But when you do have a little bit more time for a bigger piece, then you can kind of plan it all at once. The Calico 2000 said, I started to watch your channel these days and wow, it helped me a lot. Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. I don't know if you've joined the Discord yet, but the Discord is even better. So if you're not on there, join the Discord so you can get all of our notes and demos after the stream. And we give away a lot of free resources, class recordings, critiques, and things like that to our community. So keep an eye out for that. You made original character designs? That's great. Yeah, character designs are so fun. So much fun. Especially today, like when we have a culture. A lot of people argue that we're entering into this like culture of abundance, right? Where we have everything at our fingertips. Intelligence is gonna be, you know, easily accessible by everyone. We're gonna be working less. At least that's what a lot of the experts are saying. So, but I have noticed an increase in choice of entertainment, right? Which means more opportunities for artists, creators, more free time for people to enjoy your content. So exciting time, for sure. Exciting time to be an artist. Back in the day, if you were an artist, you would have to have representation, you know, like you'd have to find somebody to represent you. Nowadays, you can just like, you know, look at Khaby. He started posting TikTok videos and became world famous, right? Anybody can do that now. Anybody has the tools. We have YouTube. We have social media, which didn't really exist 20 years ago. So it is a really incredible time that we live in. Okay. If you are not very good at hands, I didn't think I would be spending so much time on his hands, but his hands are so iconic in his TikTok videos. So I feel like I need to draw his hands. Otherwise, it's gonna like not... like, I feel like his hands are part of his persona, right? As like a silent actor, your hands have so much... just so much expression. Right. And also, if you've ever seen his videos, they're so simple. It's like anybody could do it, really, right? Anybody can make the expression and can like find TikTok videos to make fun of. So you don't have to do really complicated things, actually, because his stuff is so simple. He's world famous and has fans in every country because, you know, he's funny to everybody without saying a word, which is incredible. Okay. So I can already see right now that his head is in the reference picture. It's aligned with his left hand or the hand on the right. And in mine, it's like right in the middle. So I'm going to move it over, right? The more I move it over, the more exaggerated it looks, right? So here from the middle to here, like right on top of his hand. So I'm just gonna exaggerate it, move it over, and then also make it bigger. Yeah, slapstick is definitely an art form. Because you could watch his videos on silent and they're still funny. And like not all of his videos are funny. Like I watched some of them, but yesterday my 3-year-old was messing around on my computer while I was doing research. And he saw some of these TikTok videos and he cracked up. He's 3 years old and he was cracking up over this guy's expressions. And then even my 3-year-old was like, I want to see more. I want to see more. I was like, oh no, probably not a good idea. Right? But definitely, I mean, if you can make adults laugh and make toddlers laugh, then you really are an international star. And his stuff is also PG, right? So it's very wholesome. Okay, so the other thing I suggest is like really zooming out. Like don't zoom in unless you absolutely need to, right? Don't zoom in until you absolutely need to. Because when you zoom in, you really get stuck on a lot of the details that are not really necessary at this stage. So let me just move his references down here. Okay, so next, let's get his eyes in. And his nose. And obviously I'm gonna make his mouth very big. Because, like, again, you want to exaggerate features, right? So if I had to say, okay, out of all his facial features, what would be average? What would be large? What would be small? And his mouth is... I have a very small mouth, so everybody's mouth is huge compared to mine. But, like, think about, for example, like Julia Roberts, right? Julia Roberts... beautiful, beautiful lady, huge mouth, right? Compared with like the average. Otherwise, all of your drawings are going to look the same, right? So try to exaggerate features when you can. Just kind of ask yourself, does this person have a normal size mouth, a larger than average size mouth, or a smaller than average size mouth? He actually has a very small chin. But we can play around with the facial features later. Now for the eyes, I don't know if I'm gonna make his eyes like... I'm gonna make his eyes really big or keep them kind of small. But this is where we can experiment. Right? Also like the distance between the eyes, because usually our eyes are the same length. as the space between the eyes. So sometimes you're going to run into an issue where you're drawing someone and they're like so symmetrical and very hard to exaggerate, right? What do you do in that instance? What do you exaggerate? So I think I'm going to make his forehead really big because I'm kind of running out of room for his forehead. I also don't want to make him look like he's smiling. I kind of want the duh face, right? So having a brush problem on your KRITA. Oh no, what's the problem? We have a new KRITA brush video and guide that just came out on the channel. You can check that out after. Maybe it will be helpful. I also think it's really fun to kind of exaggerate his ears because his ears are so small that I think I could make them even smaller. Let's make them like really, really small. Just for fun. Also, if you're easily offended, don't ever get a caricature and don't try to do caricatures unless you're like willing, you know, to have some fun and to not take yourself and what you're drawing too seriously. Because there were some people getting quite offended in that poll. And I'm like, really? Everybody is subject to caricature, okay? Everybody. All right, so I don't think this looks like him yet, so I think what I'm gonna do is make his forehead a little bit bigger so that I can actually play around with the wrinkles. Yeah, you definitely need thick skin for caricatures. 100%. I think you just need thick skin in general to do better at life. Like, in general. It doesn't matter what you do in life. If you're the type of person that can't take a joke or can't... or you take yourself way too seriously, then you're probably not gonna get that far in whatever it is you do because people just don't want to work with you. They don't want to be tiptoeing around you all the time, right? Oh my gosh, I can't say this because they're gonna get offended. Or like they can't be themselves around you because they can't even... I mean, we are so hard on our celebrities these days. Oh my goodness, we're so hard on them. I would not want to be you know, some of the people that we posted in the poll because it's tough. We want our celebrities to be authentic. We want them to be themselves. We want them, you know, to... We say we want them to be authentic, but then sometimes they'll say something silly and get themselves canceled. And it's like... we are allowed as humans to make mistakes. Gotta be a little bit easier, a little bit less, I don't know. Personally, for me, I'm not really a huge fan of the drama, any kind of internet drama. Yeah, walking on eggshells sucks. Here, here. Definitely agree. I think all humans are supposed to be imperfect, right? We're supposed to make mistakes. So nobody's perfect. Okay, so let's do some of these wrinkles. Now you gotta be careful with wrinkles because they can make somebody look really old. So you gotta be like really selective. And also he's looking up, like he's looking at the viewer. And in my drawing right now, it looks like he's looking down, right? So I have to fix that. I have to fix it so that he's actually looking up at us. So maybe I just make his pupils a little smaller. This guy has such a good face too, and he's quite young, you know? I'm actually very lucky that I can find funny pictures of him online because he's also one of those handsome dudes, right? Like just like good looking, and it's hard to exaggerate good looking people. So you really have to like find what it is about them that makes them what makes them more recognizable. Right, like he's got kind of thick eyebrows, so I might make them a little thicker. Nova says, what do you mean you don't spend 8 hours a day watching people be sour? I know, right? It's such a waste of my mental energy. I don't really care what people on the internet say. Except you guys. Except for our community, really. Take it with a grain of salt, you know? People on the internet love drama. Love from Bangladesh, right back at you. Love from Canada. Glad you could tune in. Also, he has like a pretty... He's got like very symmetrical features. Right. Also, like the distance between his nose and his mouth is pretty average as well. So like, I'm not really sure if I should make his nose bigger or smaller, but I'm gonna try adjusting it and seeing. Sometimes, you know, if you're working digitally and you have that luxury, it's good to test it out. I still can't get away from like getting a good likeness, right? I think it's so hard to deviate from that. So I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not getting crazy over the top here. Right, like you can kind of see like he's got some darkness between his eyes here, right? So sometimes it could be like lighting, right? You make his chin a little bit darker. Underneath his nose, this triangle is going to be darker. His upper lip is going to be darker. And I'm going to make the top of his head smaller. Just to make it more fun. Yeah, yeah, you want to ask yourself, you know, like how can you have more fun? How can you make yourself laugh when you're drawing somebody? If you're drawing someone and it like makes you crack up, then you know that you're onto something good, right? So I'm not at that stage yet. I don't think I'm cracking up yet. I'm definitely not cracking up, so I need to figure out how to make myself crack up. Shafiq Midra says, how long does it take to be a normal artist if I start from zero? Well, it depends on what your definition of normal is, because if you start drawing in any capacity, you are a normal artist. Like if you draw consistently and you know, like the things that you're drawing, then I think that you can be a normal artist. If you mean professional artists, though, it really depends on how much time you have to dedicate to your art. So, you know, if you're working full time and you got, you know, kids and a life and a 9-to-5 job, then it's going to take a little bit longer, right? But if you are learning it on your own, or you have like all this time to dedicate to your art, then it can definitely happen sooner. If you want some more clarity, you can join the Discord and ask around. But it really depends. Like if you could dedicate full-time hours to improving your art, then you can get there pretty quickly. I would say probably like within a year, a couple years. If you specialize. So I'm going to make his shoulders a little thinner. So once you kind of figure out what your sketch is going to look like, then you can start to exaggerate, right? You can start to make things a little smaller, a little bigger. I might also exaggerate his hands and make them more a little bit more chiseled. So I hope if you're here that you can draw along with me. And if you do, I would love to see your artwork on the Discord. If you do end up drawing along with me, you can tag me on the Discord so I can take a look at your work. Merch Yak, welcome in. I draw objects great, but when it comes to characters, I found trouble of angles, the vision. Yeah, it's always difficult to draw head angles. I believe we definitely have some streams on the channel and some videos on the channel that can help you with that. It's a lot of practice, right? Like if it's the first time you're drawing a difficult head angle and it looks wonky and you give up, that's the extent of trying, you know, of your effort. But if you're willing to really give it a shot and don't call it quits until, like, you know, maybe you've done, let's say 10 drawings, okay? If you've attempted like 10 drawings, then and you don't see any improvement, then I would say come to a critique, like either sign up for a live critique, take some classes. We actually have a ton of classes on our school learning platform, and you could try it for free for 7 days. Just go onto there, go into the classroom, Google head angles, watch some videos. Those are just like our raw class recordings. And yeah, you could improve a lot. So if you do have 7 days, you can give our school community a try. So I think the other thing that could be getting in the way is if you have trouble drawing humans, it could just be like your brain saying, oh, it's a human. I haven't had much luck with drawing people, so I don't think I'm good at it. And as soon as you label yourself as not good at portraits, then your brain will we tend to kind of like write ourselves off, or not really give ourselves a proper chance when we fail and we think, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. Well, if you think you're never going to be able to do it, then you're never going to be able to do it, right? Like, you're only going to be able to do it if you believe that you can do it. So it's just like a simple mind shift. Having a good mindset is so important when it comes to your artistic growth. And actually, mindset is something that we really try to work with our students on. Because without a good mindset, then you're like stunting your own growth pretty much, right? If you're more interested in drama on the internet rather than improving your drawing skills, right? Then, sorry, I can't help you. When I draw thumbs, I like to make them a little bit different than other fingers. You can kind of see me like working out the best approach for these hands. And then some things that you could try is like when you're at this stage, you know what? I'm going to lift his shoulder even more. I'm going to make his shoulder like higher. Right. What can you do to capture more drama? Oh, like that. That looks better. Right, so if his head is angled, angle it more. If his eyes are wide, widen them more. Right? If his mouth is large, make it even bigger. If his ears are small, make them even smaller. These are ways that you can really exaggerate, but it's hard to kind of do intuitively. It's more something that you learn with practice. The first time I did caricatures, and I did them for free at a local fair. I had a sign that said, pay what you want. And everybody paid me. I don't think I had one person who didn't give me like at least $5. Some people gave me $5. Some people gave me $40. I ended up making like close to $300 that night. I drew for 6 hours straight, and I had a line. I had a lineup of people waiting for me, and it got dark, and it was the summertime. I was drawing till like 9 o'clock, and I had to like use a lamp because it had gotten dark already, and it was incredible. Just, it was my first time doing caricatures, you know. And I probably did, let's see, I probably did about 30 or 40, I probably drew at least 40 people that day. And if you can practice 40 caricatures, right, in how many hours? 6 hours? Then I promise you're going to get exponentially better. And sometimes you just have to do things that make you super uncomfortable in order to get that exponential growth. Blue Nova, your caricature is cracking me up. I'm so happy. I'm glad it's cracking you up. That's always a good thing. Shafiq Midra says, how long does it take to complete your art course? It depends on the course. The programs that are on our school are recordings of our weekly classes. And our weekly classes generally are about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. Right? So if you have 2 hours out of your day, you could potentially do at least one class. So if you're looking for head angles, for example, right? Then you could do that in about 2 hours. And you can also submit your artwork for feedback on the platform, which is super cool. Because I think feedback, not getting proper feedback, is what holds a lot of people back, because either they're embarrassed, they don't want to share their work. But like, listen, guys, everybody in our community has made art that they're not happy with before, right? Even me, like, you might think that professional artists are happy with everything that they do. Wrong. We're just as hard on ourselves as new artists are. So sometimes we're so alone in our kind of like shyness and our embarrassment. Like, we don't want to show our artwork because we don't think it's good enough. But secretly, everybody feels that way. And sometimes it's good to just put yourself out there and get feedback, right? And like, yeah, grow thicker skin. Your art is not you, right? Just because somebody doesn't like your art, it's not a personal attack on you. If somebody doesn't like your art, you can just think to yourself, you know what? I didn't create it for you. You know? You can't make art to please everybody. That is not gonna work. All right. Okay. I felt compelled to do a little bit of shading in my sketch. I typically don't do that, but I think it helps me kind of visualize and think a little bit about what the final piece is going to look like. For example, I want to make the tips of his fingers a little bit warmer. Whoops! What did I do there? It's funny, when people have, like generally people with lighter skin, their fingertips tend to be a little bit darker, a little bit more red. But sometimes when you're drawing somebody with darker skin, right, their fingertips might be lighter, but they're generally more red, right? Generally, because we have more blood going into our fingertips, it's more red. And so just adding a little bit of shading can make a big difference in terms of like how human something looks, right? Like if you draw somebody's hand, but you don't actually, you make their hand like a perfect skin color, and there's no color variation, no hue shifting, nothing like that, then it tends to not look very alive, right? So there we go. My sister was so good at art, but I want to do it for freelancing. Anybody can be really good at art. I've taught people who were 40 years old who couldn't draw a circle, but they were interested in art. As long as you're interested, you can do it. As long as you put in effort and you're interested in what you're doing, you can absolutely do it. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to draw. It doesn't matter if you're starting later in life. It doesn't matter. As long as you love it. That's all you need. You don't need talent. You need interest and effort. Okay, so now that I have a sort of finalized sketch, and this is like exactly how I would sketch in pencil. I basically just drew it digitally. I'm going to make a copy of it so that you have the original. And then you can start to play around with the new version, right? So you have like a safe version. And then you have a new version. And then in the new version is where I would like get a little bit crazy, you know, just like a little bit more exaggerated. So you can do some things where you, for example, make the ears bigger. Oh, that didn't really work. You know what? It's just easier for me to redraw it. Like, what if I made the ears? Like, you know, much bigger and kind of like elf-like. Is that better than the first? You know? I think to really exaggerate well, you really have to like just get it out, like just draw the first thing, get it out of your system, and then exaggerate, right? Then see about, okay, is there something that I could do? Now this just like makes him look like a goblin, right? So I'm not sure this is the best approach. Especially because this man has very small ears to begin with. So maybe what I need to do then is I need to like make his ears really small if I keep this elf-like look to it. Just make them like really small. Yeah, old ear was better. Yeah, exactly, right? Like you try some things and then if they don't work, they don't work. I kind of like this scrunchy ear. I think it's kind of funny. You know? My son has one ear that's like scrunchy and then the other one is normal. So it's just like something that you notice when you draw a lot of faces. Right? Like I think that's pretty funny. Like, you know, the old version or the new version, I think the new version has more character. Without it getting a little bit too distracting, right? Okay. Next thing I'm going to play around with is the mouth. So sometimes you could do something really silly, and I've seen this done before, where like the features actually come off the face, right? So for example, if I took his mouth here and I want to go really silly, I can like make his mouth super big so that it like comes off the page. And hold on, what do I have to do? Let's see here. Right, like I don't really think that that looks great. I could make it a little bit bigger. Right, like I could make it bigger, but then I have to change his face. Right, so I could do a separate version where I make his face a little bit bigger. So for example, and this is really just to like practice pushing boundaries, right? Because if you don't really practice, then you're never really gonna push the boundaries. And if I want to make his face really big or his mouth really big, then I have to kind of make his face a little bit smaller. I mean, sorry, his jaw a little bit bigger, right? And you guys can tell me. You guys can tell me in the chat if you like this new version better or if you like the old version better. Or if the new version is funnier, right? Is the new version funnier? Yeah, I could definitely bulge his eyes out. That's a great idea. Let's try that next. Because his eyes do bulge, right? They absolutely bulge. I definitely think this one's funnier. So don't just stop at your very first one, right? You gotta explore and exaggerate and see like what really works for the person that you're drawing. And sometimes that takes a few tries. Making his hands larger would add to it. Yeah, I do think we could try one of those. Can definitely try one. So let's try making his eyes bulge first, and then we can try another version. So I'm gonna take my original, my copy of Sketch. So I'm gonna put him right here. Let's put my original here. And then now I got this and this with the mouth. You guys think the bigger mouth is better, yeah? A little bit funnier. So if that's the case, I'm gonna put these in a group. If you have too many layers without naming them, it gets really a little bit confusing. So, okay, so there's that. And now I'm going to create a copy of that folder. And then I'm gonna flatten it. So go in here. How do I flatten this layer? Merge group. There you go. Now this is all one. Okay. So now let's see if we can make his eyes bulge out. So I think the easiest way is to just, let's see. Let's just draw it from scratch. I find like trying to kind of like use what I have. Sometimes if I just like use what I have, it can feel a little bit, I don't know, it doesn't work as well as like redrawing for me. So I'm gonna try to find specific Looney Tunes. So when I look at Bulging Eyes, right? Because sometimes it's fun to just kind of like look at references, right? It can go anywhere from like this type of bulging eye to like this type of bulging eye. So funny. Right? So we could like try eyes popping out and like eyes bulging like this. Those could all be kind of fun. Yeah, definitely easier just to redraw, for sure. This angle doesn't also lend itself really well to the bulging eyes as much as the Looney Tunes examples are all from the side, right? So let's see what we can do here. So what happens if we have his eyes kind of coming out? Like if they're bulging, then maybe they're like coming out here. I'm not sure I'm gonna like this, but I'm open to trying a bunch of different stuff, right? Always open to trying different things. And I think that I'm gonna move this one. I'm gonna move it so that it's coming out this way. It's kind of bulging in two different directions. I think that might be funnier. Or maybe it's bulging like down here. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Jeff. Jess, I don't know. I don't know if I like this or not, but I tried it. It's starting to lose his likeness a little bit. But it was fun. So what is caricature? Yeah, so caricature is the art of exaggerating portraits. Just out of the spirit of fun. And it's a classical art form. I know that I have, as a kid, I've kind of stopped to, I've stopped many occasions like just in awe watching somebody draw another person live. Like I thought that it was the coolest thing ever. And I remember that I would always like stop in my tracks and watch the entire thing. I loved caricature artists. I just thought they were so amazing to be able to draw like that on the spot, you know, with everybody watching them and all this pressure. Just their confidence was really awe-inspiring. So now that I did the pop-up eyes, right, I think I would need to darken the eye sockets a little bit more. And because only the eyes are exaggerated here, I didn't really exaggerate the nose. I feel like I would need to exaggerate the nose a little bit to kind of even make it feel like it's the same drawing. Not huge on the pop-out eyes, only because this is like the... I just don't think this pose in particular lends itself really well to the pop-out eyes. But yeah, let me know what you think. Oh no, what did you join into? We are drawing Khaby Lame. Let me just write his name down so you can Google him. #1 TikToker. Comedian. So funny. So simple. International star. Well, since this one is like the most exaggerated, let's try making his hands really big, right? That was a suggestion from the audience. Let's make his hands really big and see how we like it. Kind of fun. Kind of fun. I like it. That was a good suggestion. So maybe not eyes popping out, but hands. Right? This is funny. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna try another version of his eyes to make him feel a little bit more. Hang on, let me just move this. Just so I have like a more immediate reference. And I'm going to try his eyes again. Because there's different ways to draw eyes. And if you were in Josh's stream the last time, he did a great stream. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. On eyes, on how to stylize eyes. So if you have trouble stylizing eyes, definitely check that out. And I'm gonna try to stylize his eyes here a little bit more. So sometimes making one eye like a little smaller and one eye a little bigger can add to like the nervousness or the like awkwardness of the drawing. So that was something I haven't tried yet. And if you ever do draw a celebrity, send it to them. They love seeing stuff like that. So I do think the one with the bigger hands and like the second type of eye is a little bit better. Especially since I can make the eye bulge or appear to bulge in different ways, right? So here he almost looked pain. He looks like he's in pain. And let's like exaggerate his mouth even more. Like get it really high. And again, he has this expression, but he's not smiling. Like he's just kind of, this is his like, his duh face, right? So if you point the corners of his mouth down a little bit, you can kind of get away with that type of expression. I'm gonna make his cheekbones a little bit bigger. Biru says, is it possible to make these creatures from imagination? I'm not sure what you mean, but in my opinion, yes, you can make anything from imagination. TF says, what if the eyebrows pop out? Yeah, definitely. That could be something that is really fun too, right? Like if the eyebrows are like here, for example, right? I think, again, it's a little bit harder with this front-facing pose, but I love the idea. You guys are all so creative. I love hearing all of your suggestions. And shout out to TF, one of our students who also won the XPPen contest. One of the winners. Congratulations. All right, so you can see like the more versions I do, the more, you know, the more things I can try, right? So if you look at all of the different versions, let me move my reference pictures. There we go. Okay. So this was version number 1, the one at the top here, right? Now that was 2, made the mouth bigger. This is 3, made the eyes pop out more, and made the hands bigger. Okay. So it's a little bit rough, but hopefully you can see the process and use it on your own caricatures, right? I think that the process of exaggerating is so key, right? Because a lot of times we just stop at the first thing that we do and we're like, oh, it looks pretty good, I'm gonna stop, I'm not gonna push it anymore. But you can see, like, once you decide to push it more, right, even if you end up going back to your first original, at least you explored different variations, right? And this is something that you could also speak with an art director about. Like you could say, hey, if you're commissioned to do a portrait, do you want me to be like, you know, super exaggerated? Or how important is the likeness to you? And go from there. All right. Thanks, Vin. Hi, Crazy Caitlins. Okay, so let's do. Okay, so I got 3 versions here. Let me just clean up this stuff, and then I'll do some finishing touches. Okay. So because this is all kind of sketched out already, I think I'm just going to keep it more of a pencil sketch. Like I'm going to keep it a little bit more like no color, because I really wanted to just go over the conceptualization and how I typically work, and all of the different ways you can kind of play around and exaggerate. Oops, it's not what I meant to do. Okay, here we go. So I'm thinking like, should I add color to this? I only have 20 minutes left. Thinking. Brain processing. Let's see. Let me just create a copy of this. Oops, not that one. I like to create copies of stuff so that I don't accidentally mess it up, and I still have the layers in between if I want. So let's just, I think I'm just going to clean up this sketch instead of like doing line art on top of it. I think I'm just going to clean it up. Whoa, that was weird. What happened there? Oh, I see, because it was white. Because I painted with white on top of it. Oh, that was my bad. Yeah, see, those are the areas I painted white. Haha. You know what I can do to fix that is just add a white layer underneath. Hopefully this works. Because it's on a transparent layer, so it's not working like I want it to. So I have to create a white layer first, and then merge. Okay, now let me see if this will work. Whoops. Oh, now it won't because everything is white. Ah! Okay. Let me undo that. Okay. Just means I have to draw some parts again. See, like the dirty parts are all the parts that I I painted over. So just ignore the splatters for now. You know what? There's got to be a better way to do this. Hold on. There's got to be a better way. I think I'll just use... Can I just use layers? Levels? Yeah, let's just do levels. It still shows some of that gray that I made. But I can pretty much get rid of it with levels. Okay, that works. Okay. So I'm just going to use the last bit of time to clean up this drawing. And then the brush that I'm using is actually a pencil, so it can get a little bit fuzzy. But I kind of like that fuzziness, like I like that texture. But I also want some sharp lines. Right, especially like along the fingers, you want some really sharp, dark lines. I don't want it to be blurry. I want it to be as simple as I can. You made an edit to the sketch? Yeah, I'd love to show you. If you're cracking up, then it means it's good, right? Like if you can make yourself crack up, that's the best. If you've ever done a drawing and you can't stop laughing, that is the best feeling. It's so good. I would love to see it. I've also drawn, I think I've drawn Morgan Freeman, and I drew Samuel L. Jackson. Oh my gosh, he has such a good face for caricature. Those are the last two people that I drew in my classes. Caricature classes are so fun because you really just get to exaggerate like you don't normally do, right? Because like normal commissions are usually about getting a good likeness and like making sure that you're kind of flattering the person that you're drawing. But with caricatures, you can totally distort. I mean, it doesn't even have to follow proportions anymore, which can be very liberating and exhilarating. Right now, I'm just kind of cleaning up some of the lines. Yeah, post it to our channel if you've been drawing along with me. Post it on our Discord. Love to see it. Whoops. Uh-oh, I don't know what happened. I think I hit W by mistake and it just... Something's messing up. Whoa, what did I do? I pressed some shortcut. Oh, okay, it's this one, I see. So, I've used so many different digital programs that I have trouble remembering the shortcuts for them. There's no like go-to that I use. I've been using Rebel a lot. But I find that it's not it mimics traditional art, so there are some limitations. Like it doesn't always behave like a digital program does. KRITA is pretty good, although there's a very steep learning curve. I know some people don't, like some people who actually use fancier illustration programs like Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop. They don't really like KRITA. But I think for a free program, KRITA is amazing, especially because it does animation too, right? So if you're sick of paying for Photoshop, then you should definitely consider KRITA. It's pretty robust for everything that it can do. So yeah, I suggest it. I recommend it. Yeah, so I've used, I've used Photoshop in the beginning. I think it was mostly Photoshop in the beginning. I probably used Photoshop for a good, oh gosh. I want to say 10 years of my life? Maybe even longer. I did a lot of photo retouching as well, which is Photoshop is great for. Photoshop is like, Adobe is really good for, like if you're drawing something and you want to finish it in Illustrator, you want to add text to it, like Photoshop is really good for that. KRITA is not great at adding text, at least I find it's a little clunky, but you know, it's free and made by volunteers, so I'm not complaining. I've also used Medibang, which is very easy to learn because it's so similar to Photoshop. But it's limiting. I found it a little bit spammy. Any Medibang users here in the chat? So I used Medibang to teach classes only because everybody could use it because it's free, right? We had a lot of digital new digital artists wanting to learn digital art. So we started making videos in KRITA and videos in Medibang just so everybody can participate, right? Everybody can try digital art for free instead of paying hundreds of dollars or be stuck with a subscription. So a lot of people, like a lot of new digital artists will sort of worry like, oh, do you teach classes specifically for Procreate or specifically for, you know, KRITA? And my answer is like all digital programs are very similar. So if you can use one program, then you can use another. Like it's pretty easy and it's pretty, I mean, you might need to learn the new shortcuts and stuff, but it's pretty easy to switch once you know the basic concepts and such. What application would you recommend to use if you are just starting out? I would say Medibang because it's free to use and it's very easy to learn. We have some videos on the channel on how to use Medibang. If you're looking to do animation, either now or eventually, I would probably recommend KRITA. We have a lot of KRITA tutorials as well on the channel, so KRITA would be a good one to start with. If you want to do animation, right? If you see yourself doing animation, then definitely KRITA is good. You started and stayed with KRITA? Yeah, KRITA is really good. Actually, we have a Medibang course, like a intro to digital art beginner course, and that we teach in Medibang. I think that, like, I think we chose Medibang because it was just so easy to learn. You'll also see me toggling back and forth. For example, with KRITA, whatever brush you select, you can also use it as an eraser, which I really like because you can preserve some of the textures of the brush. Like, have you ever drawn something and then use a hard eraser to erase it and then it just looks really bad? Well, with KRITA, you can actually choose you can actually get custom erasers from the brush that you're using. You just have to like toggle this eraser tool. Hello, Schlittle Nutatious? I don't know if I said that right. Did you just made it to the stream? Yeah, we are almost wrapping up. I'm just kind of like cleaning up my sketch. But the VOD will be available for you guys to enjoy. So you can catch up with everything that you missed. I just want to make sure that the eyes are not blurry here. And just put a bit of, just a little bit of some like tasty details, you know, at the very end. Is Procreate overrated? If you use an iPad, Procreate is great. I have lots of friends who are professional illustrators who swear by Procreate. It's also like a one-time fee, right? So you don't really have to keep paying for it. So if you're an iPad user, Procreate is really good. I don't use it myself, but I have heard really good things. It's very easy and intuitive to use, but if you're not an iPad user and you want something free, KRITA's great. It's not the most intuitive, but it has really good free brushes. If you want to know what those free brushes are, check out Josh's latest video. He goes over, he tests like all of the different KRITA brushes, over 100, and puts them all together in a nice recommendations list that you can download. So it'll save you a lot of time looking for the brushes. And like I did all of this illustration with 2 brushes. One is the pencil 1 sketch, and then the other one is basic 5 size. Like that's pretty much it. I can refine it more, and I would, but my goal for this stream is to really show you the ideation process, how I get started, and not so much focusing on the rendering, which we can do in other streams. So I'm just going to take a minute to finish his face, and then I will post this demo for you lovely people on the Discord. So you can download this and try it on your own. Does Josh do a lot of his animation on KRITA? Yeah, he does. I think Josh uses even more programs than I do. I think he's used many of them. But yeah, we have a lot of animation tutorials on the channel if you haven't checked them out. We have an entire playlist dedicated to animating in KRITA, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. A lot of the brushes that you see in KRITA as well, like I'm using a pencil brush, but you can see like when I make that brush really big, like what kind of texture I get, right? Versus when I make it really small, it's almost completely different. So I think it's a really good idea to also like try, when you try the brushes, don't just like try them at, you know, face value, or at whatever size. Like try it really big and then try it smaller, and then you might find that some brushes are, you know, really, you would never use them to draw, but you would use them to shade, for example. Or you might find a brush that's so versatile that you use it to do almost everything. And even though brushes do a lot of work for you, you don't want to rely on a brush or condition yourself to think that you can't draw X, Y, and Z because you don't have the right brush for it. The brush doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. It matters only a little bit. It's really about mindset and, you know, effort, interest. How much do you really love the process? And how easily you give up. Do you give up very easily? You know, one bad drawing and you're crying and giving it up? Well, that's not really going to help, right? if you can see or reframe every single bad drawing that you've made into a learning opportunity, then you'll be able to draw like a professional very quickly. If you're also interested in learning more about art and about our programs, you can actually book a call with one of our program ambassadors. It's a free, quick 15-minute call to kind of go over your skills and build you a custom roadmap if you think that would be helpful. So you can just go to our website or join our Discord to make that happen. Okay, so I'm just gonna give his face a little bit more shading. I'm just using very, very light pencil pressure here. Yeah, I know the textures change so much, right? What brush is that? I'm just using the two default pencil brushes in KRITA. So I'm using, what is this? Pencil Sketch 1. And this one is Pencil B. They're just, I like it because I can kind of build up my textures, right? Depending on how hard I press. So it gives me a really nice sort of textured brush to shade with, which I really appreciate, because sometimes it's hard to shade traditionally when you're using a digital program, right? So if you can find a brush that allows you to mimic, you know, some of the properties of traditional brushes, then you can use that to shade, and it'll solve a lot of the shading problems that you're having. And then like if I toggle my brush as an eraser, then I can just kind of like easily get some of those details back. Right, you can see I didn't really shade the hands. I relied mostly on line art, but what I could do to create better contrast is I could color the shirt a little bit more. So I can just kind of like go in and add a little bit of shading to the shirt, a little bit of darkness in the hands here. Although in a lot of caricatures do rely on line, most of the contrast is created with value. So I'm trying to rely a little bit less on line and more on values. So I like the more crispy brush here, or that pen, to get more definite lines, for example, in the hands, because they are so close. And again, just giving the hands a little bit of texture. All right. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, I can always keep going. The first 80% of any piece takes just as long as like the last 20%, right? So I think I'm about 80% there. If I was to deliver this to a client, obviously I would touch it up a little bit more. I would clean it up a little bit more, but you get the idea. So, oh, there's one thing I want to do here. Erase one of his pull strings. Those drawstrings are really hard to draw. Give it a little bit of texture. I love doing caricatures, even with collage. Like, if you guys have ever done collage, so much fun. Whether it's digital or traditional, just, you know, using found textures to create illustrations is so much fun. One of my favorite things to do. I have a lot of favorites, but that one is definitely really fun. And if there's anything that any topic that you want to see us do on stream, join our Discord. We have a suggestions, like a topic suggestions thread. I think it's a whole channel dedicated to it. And we do look at it. Our entire team looks at the type of content that you guys suggest, what you want to see us draw, and if there's anything that you want to see us make a video about, let us know. We might have already made a video on that topic, so do a search for it. Just search for wing canvas and then the topic. Like, we have tons of videos on the fundamentals, on foreshortening, on drawing faces, drawing bodies, stylization, backgrounds, character art, animation, you name it. But yeah, lots that we've already made. But anything you want to see us do next, definitely let us know. And yeah, our mission, again, is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So join us at Wing Canvas for live, free streamed lessons on YouTube every week, and level up your skills with our community of art nerds. You can visit our website, wingcanvas.com, because we're more than just a YouTube channel. We are an online school of illustration, helping artists turn their passion for visual storytelling into income. So a huge shout out to our amazing students and members for supporting our mission. A lot of you guys popped up here. Love to see you. We love seeing your incredible artwork and watching you grow in our classes and weekly streams. So if you want to dive deeper, you can join our Discord to access stream notes, exclusive artwork, art challenges, and more free art resources to help you grow. So come connect with fellow art nerds and get inspired. Join our Discord. I will see you guys on there. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your Monday and hope you had fun. Bye-bye.